well. And yeah, that's for me. I already got one notification on the YouTube app saying, "Oh no, the stream might be blocked because they have detected copyright music." All that rubbishness. So let me just quickly turn into lo-fi. Hopefully that won't trigger anything. But yeah. However, it is doing absolutely fine. Decided to kind of like do a little bit of an interesting new thing, which is is it? Oh, that's one thing now. Because YouTube, I'm pretty sure on on Twitch, everything has to be running perfectly fine, right? Is my face available? Yes. But for some reason on YouTube, it's stuck. Why is it stuck? That doesn't make sense. Wait, is on Twitch. Am I? Okay, fine. On Twitch, everything is working perfectly fine. But on YouTube, for some reason, it decided to fuck off. And why is that? No, wait. Or is it? Because, well, wait a minute. What's the time now? Now it's, the time of the stream. 11. 11, and I'm getting a delay on YouTube. As if I'm still playing the song, which doesn't really make sense. But I really hope it's not the thing. I mean, fucking hell. Holy shit. Yeah, fucking hell. Streaming on two platforms at the same time is not an easy task. But yeah, let me just make sure everything is fine. Let me show the YouTube platforms at the same time is not an easy task. Oh no, actually it just make sure everything is fine. No, it is actually coming in. Yeah, perfectly fine. The quality actually looks way better for some reason on YouTube as compared to Twitch. But yeah, that's okay. Fine then. Whatever. Yeah, there is an issue a little bit with the chat. I feel like it could be a bit better because like you can see the border of the chat box over here, which I don't know. It's like the thing is like it's not as I don't know. Maybe like the way that I decided, the options to choose to multiple live stream is not the most efficient one, so I still have to like tweak it here and there. But this chat box which is here is supposed to display both of these things. So if somebody messages on Twitch, it has to display a little bit of an icon next to the message, and if somebody messages on YouTube, it has to display a little bit of an icon on YouTube as well. Yeah, but apparently I have one person watching I mean, I'm not going to go to the analytics aspect of it, but yeah, it's it's something, yeah. No, I mean, the main reason that I decided to do that, you know what, because the discoverability on Twitch is god awful. You can't really like, maybe not, but it's like, you know what, if there's an option to like increase the number of eyes, the number of chances of like, okay fine, you know what, of people coming in or stumbling upon your stream, why not do that, and I have already done two things, which is Twitch and YouTube, and I think next week I'll end up putting the kick, because yeah, other live platforms maybe in the future, but it's like, as it is, like fucking hell, keeping up with two fucking like major platforms is a fucking hassle, I feel like. Or maybe it's just like I'm not used to that, so I think I still have to get a little bit of the practice and the time, so yeah. But I feel like, yeah, you know what, I think it's much better, because well, I started streaming on Twitch, and the growth has been there, but it's been slow, right? And I've always kind of like saw that people kind of like live stream on both the platforms. So I'm like, you know what, why not do that? Why not do that? The tools are there, I have the available setup, so might as well do that. So yeah, now I just want to see like if one person here or there like messages something. That's what I want to see, because like as of now, like I'm messaging, I don't know, I'm typing it, and my message comes like on both the, like on YouTube as well as on Twitch, right? Yes, it's like it's everywhere. So for example, I typed on the Twitch app right now, HB, right? It just came as nothing. There's no symbol. Here's a symbol. No, there is no symbol. It just came as it is. But I was hoping actually there would be a little bit of a Twitch symbol. Maybe I didn't toggle the right thing. My goodness, I don't know really. Stream chat. Maybe I haven't toggle the right thing? I don't know. Let's see. Widget and alerts. Chat new. Use badges before username. Show user platform. Ah, there you go. Did it change anything? Because okay, fine. So one option which was I didn't enable it yet. Now I have. Does it show? No, no, it doesn't. What's up with that? Why not? Huh? I mean, I've enabled the option and it's supposed to work. But it isn't. Why? May I have to save it? Did it? Oh, I didn't save it. No. Well, don't tell me like I have to recopy the damn thing. Oh, do I have to recopy the damn? Fuck off now. I'm not gonna do that. Ah, it's fucking two. Even 2 monitors are not enough. It's not. No, not really. It's not coming up. Maybe there is a little bit of an icon. There is no icon actually. It's my TV. So then, because on the preview, the application that I'm using, it does show the platform icon. Okay, fine. So I was messaging on Twitch. Let me go to the YouTube while I stream and let me type something in that chat. Okay, now on YouTube it has come. But it doesn't show on here. Why? Why not? What's up with that? Maybe I should recopy it. Fine. You know what? Let me then turn this off. Let me go to this one and then stream chat copied. Okay, fine. I copied it. Now multi-chat properties. Let me delete the old one and let me put the new one in. I'm gonna type something on YouTube now. I was just gonna say at fucking Yosin. No, but I don't really need that. What the fuck? I need something else. Maybe because of the chroma filter that I'm using. Maybe wait, properties. No, filters. That's the thing. So filters, chroma key. Let me delete the chroma key. Yes. No, it just shows up how it is showing up. That's not very nice. What the hell? Or maybe because as the admin, that's why, like, that's how it shows up. I mean, it shouldn't, right? I mean, I don't know actually. You know, or maybe like we shall see if one person or the. I mean, I can fix that. It's not such a very critical thing, to be fair, right? I don't think so. Yeah, and to be fair, yes, it does work with the older one, so I didn't really have to update the link at all. Okay, fine then. So it doesn't really matter. All right, fine then. Without further ado, welcome back. Yes, the usual, the usual thing. Well, what is that? Same thing, same evening. Nothing much really. For some reason actually the previous screen of the YouTube live stream is kind of like delayed by a bunch, like 5 minutes, which is very weird. Why is it delayed by so much? I have no idea. Very interesting. Okay, fine then. So we got lots of like concurrent views, likes. All right, fine. So yeah, that's that. Oh yeah. I mean, that's it really, it's like the first stream is never going to be the most interesting, and I do have to, concurrent views and its overall views. Okay, fine. To be fair, I'm actually liking the YouTube layout of like live streaming much better than Twitch. At least like you can see like visually, it's like how the views come and go and stuff like that. It's much more like, I don't know, like rewarding, I guess, as compared to. But one thing I don't like is that the previous screen is not up to time, which is ridiculous. Why is that? I have no idea. So yeah, so that's that. Everything else is fine. Just going through the settings. Yeah, fine then. I guess it doesn't really matter. Right. Average duration, stream health. I mean, fucking hell, yeah, it doesn't really show anything. Like, it doesn't really show even how long the live stream has been actually. One thing, yes, you know what? It's not. Yeah, 22. What about this thing? 22. Yeah, it's like delayed. Oh my goodness, the YouTube this thing live stream is delayed by like a solid minute, I think, or more. So yeah, I have no idea how and why. So yeah, fine then. Okay, fine. Anyways, without further ado, I have typed in both the chats. So if one person does come in, that's absolutely good. Yes. One thing is, which is was kind of like interesting. As soon as I started the stream on YouTube, the default picture of my profile came in. Like stay there for like 2 solid minutes. I'm like, oh my goodness, no, please. For anybody who's going to be new, just going to be like, you know what? Yes, that's my introduction, just of like my face. That's the first thing that you see for a solid 2 minutes. So yeah, so fine then. Yeah, Friday evening. It was a pretty nice nice day actually. Yeah, yesterday I did the stream on the mobile, which actually went quite well. And I think, you know what, I think on this thing, unfortunately I could not live stream on multiple platforms because, well, unfortunately Prism decided to remove that feature, which was there for free before, like 1 or 2 years back. But I decided, you know what, let's make some money, and let's decide to ask people to pay for such a premium feature, I guess. So yeah, so that's that. Apart from that, well, nothing. Woke up, went to work, came back from work. Yeah, and that's it really. Yeah, that's that. Oh. Yeah, one thing which I don't really understand, why the fuck is it not showing the platform icons? Because even if I'm like chatting from, well, let's say a different yeah, it's like it's not showing at all. Why? Because like on the application which I installed, right, it does show like the preview of how it is. It does show me how it looks. Like it shows me the chat, and it does show me the little icons and stuff like that. But for some reason, I can't get the same thing to show up on the stream. Why? Display name color, user preference, make messages disappear. Message animation, text style, events, platform. It's supposed to come up. It doesn't. Right. Or maybe I have to like up. Do I have to do that? Fine. You know what? Let me close it. And then let me restart it. Maybe that's the thing. Oh yeah, actually, you know what? It actually shows on my OBS right now. What is this? Click the icon to reopen. I have to reopen the damn thing to restart. So let me reopen. Maybe, yeah, you know what? There's a whole issue. Maybe I have to just reopen the damn app. App application program. I don't know. I'm just gonna refer it to as program or app. All right. Okay. Now, what about the stream? Is it back up online? You currently do not have an active public live stream on YouTube. Go live and we'll connect. Oh, yo. Why is that? What do you mean? Connected to YouTube successfully. Just okay, fine. So still doesn't show me the icons. Why is that? Why is that? In the preview of the chat, it fucking shows everything perfectly. As how it should be. But over here it doesn't. Why? Nani? What's up with that? Maybe because I'm the admin, that's why whenever I type it shows up weirdly. It shouldn't be the case actually. Someone typed it. Yeah, exactly. Very interesting. Meh, okay, fine. Whatever. What can I really do about it? Can't really do anything about it. Okay, fine. That's how it is. Okay. Yeah. It's annoying actually. Yeah. It should work, but it's not working. Or maybe because like I already started the stream and that's why I have no idea. Viewer list. What is this viewer list? Activity feed. Oh, different things. Actually quite nice. Yeah. What is this? Open. Edit tag. Copy link. No. Edit. User badges before username. User preference. Match platforms theme. Static color. Ah no, user preference. Match platforms theme. What is this? I like three different options to like display the chat. Does it really matter? Just not going to show up anyways. What? Why? What's up with you? Why don't you want to function with me? Being a bastard. What the hell? Why? What is the issue? What is the issue? Why is it not showing up? Because like on the preview it shows exactly what I want to see, but it's not showing up on this thing. Why? Work icons, cursor live emojis, geometry, English, tweets, zoom. Example, shout out, sound, TTS, shouts, timer, settings. Hide commands, shouts comes from chat, has comes from chat. Send a message following, shouts. No, I don't know what the fuck that is. Examples. Songs you're listening to, private link, shout out, sound, TTS, no. Dashboard, widgets. Let me see. Sure, how? Browser, paste the link, apply. It's just a little GIF which just shows how to add it. That was very informative. Thank you so much. Fine, then it doesn't really want to show me what platform it is, unfortunately. But fine, it doesn't really matter. It's just like for me to, kind of like understand from where the message is coming from. But even if it doesn't really matter. So yeah, fine then. So that's it. Fine. Anyways, streaming on 2 platforms. I mean, come on. gotta give a little bit of pat of a pat on the back for me, actually. Yeah. But yeah, actually, like if I pull up the statistics, I think I'm getting more views on the YouTube, like more like discoverability as compared to Twitch, because just I reflect. And to be fair, it's like when you think about it, like shouldn't there be more competition on YouTube, because like this, it's a more popular thing between like Twitch is just used primarily just for streaming, but YouTube is used for like video hosting. So it's like, yeah. Anyways, so yeah, that's that. Fine then, you know what? Yeah, that's that. It's a different things. Webcam, manage, and stream top fans. Okay. Moderation activity, timestamps, reactions, popular chat, top chat. What is top chat? Live chat. Oh, messages, listen. Live chat. Much better. Okay. So yeah, fine then. Okay, fine. You know what? Without further ado, that's that. Yeah, I was thinking like of how it is on my our second monitor, which is on the laptop. I feel like the previous screen, I think, is a little bit in a weird position, because like usually it's like whenever I try to reach chat, like I usually like look down, but the chat is like on the right side. So let me just quickly shift. Let me just quickly put one thing to the other. Yeah. Oh no, I didn't do, but what the hell? Oh my goodness, why don't you want to? Okay, how about this one? Okay, so it'll perfectly fit on the on the right side, but it won't fucking fit on the left side at all. The fuck? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Alright, fine then. Fine. Actually, you know what? Let's see. Maybe actually there is going to be a little bit of an interesting thing to watch on YouTube. What do we have actually? What do we have to watch? Yeah. Is anything interesting? Is anything new? I'm actually got into a little bit of a calisthenics binge, so you know what? I've subscribed to that. Actually, pretty good dude for whatever he actually shows, and like the way that he describes us for that, and his body actually, like when you look at it, perfectly fine. Yeah, but I think like it took him, I think like 2.5 maybe like 3 years to like get to this physique, which is like, yeah, sure, it does take a little bit of time, but yeah, damn. I mean, that was, genetics plays a massive role on that. But yeah, anyways, you know what? Pretty good. So yeah, I'm just watching him, and if I'll be persistent enough and carry out all the things that I've planned, I think I can achieve somewhat of a similar body. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Hopefully that I'll be able to do that. So yeah, so find it. Oh, look at that, Electronic Gem song. Fine. What else? What do we have? We have. Dope tech still so good. What's about this one? Mark Ass Brownie.
All right, welcome back to Dope Tech. It has been too long. It's been more than a year since the last Dope Tech video, but I love this series. I've made more than 30 of them. I've shown off more than 100 products in various ways through Dope Tech, and I just feel like we should be getting back to this. So something I've noticed while we were heads down in busy season and all the smartphones and all the brand new stuff is there are a couple things that I missed during this year, but those things are often successors to previous gadgets that I've also already talked about on this channel, things that I've had in Dope Tech before. So this is Dope Tech Revisited. Everything that I'm showing in this Dope Tech is a follow-up to something that I have previously showed some older version of on Dope Tech in the past, so we can see if it's still dope, if it's gotten better since it came out, or worse, and how it measures up. Also, thanks to Google for sponsoring a portion of this video. More on that later. So first up, the goated productivity mouse, the Logitech MX.
You want to get this mouse at least.
Now, I've personally been using the MX Master since the first one, and actually even before that when it was called the Performance MX. But it first appeared in Dope Tech 6 years ago as the MX Master 3 with a bunch of other stuff, but it was actually the most replayed part of that video. Since then, they've also come out with MX Master 3S, and then this is MX Master 4. So the benefit of having such a popular mouse is Logitech basically gets tons of data on how we use our mice, the things we like about it, the things we don't like about it, and then they can make iterative improvements over and over again on each one. And so this one, the 4, I've noticed has some bigger changes, but still keeps that formula and feels familiar. So it's still a great size, still a great shape, for righties anyway. But you know, a lot of older MX Masters, you might see end up looking kind of crummy after a few years because of the rubberized finish that they all have. Well, Logitech noticed that, so this one should avoid all that because it's an entirely new plastic finish. Now, obviously plastic has a negative connotation, but in certain products, it just makes sense.
I'm gonna go on Amazon
like
in India. Let me see how much it's
So there's no finish to wear off. It's just texture. It's lightweight, it's recycled, and the little micro texture they've put on this middle part gives you a little bit of extra grip. So I'm confident it should have a much longer life of looking basically new. But then there's also a whole bunch of other little things. Like the horizontal scroll wheel is moved a bit higher up, which is awesome for me because I use it all the time while video editing. The mouse click is also
the images don't fucking show up
silent, which is nice in a studio environment like this. There's also a third button added up at the front here in front of the forward and back buttons that can be customized. And then the biggest new addition is actually haptics. And so that's kind of a bold thing to try. Obviously, you have mouse clicks already, but they've added a haptic motor for even more clicks. It's
image is not loading. What the fuck? Oh, there you go, there you go.
Right by your thumb, kind of like a smartphone's vibration motor.
5,000, 10,000 fucking
down here, you can feel it click, even though it's not actually moving. It's a very convincing click, and then you can turn that up or down in settings, along with tons of other stuff, like setting that to be a quick launch shortcut ring.
No, but the thing like I've heard is like one of the best actually.
Or mission control on a Mac, or you can even make your own macros. So the Logitech Options Plus app is.
And this one, this mouse, I didn't actually buy it as like a bundle which came with the laptop, but like okay, it's a Lenovo laptop, and I said I'm going to buy a Lenovo mouse as well. I feel like I don't really particularly have like a pretty big hands or whatever, but I feel like this mouse is pretty small for me. Like it just like it's too small. Kind of like prefer a little bit of a bigger size to be fair.
Playground for people trying to maximize their productivity. It's kind of like this little Grand Theft Auto weapons select, but for your computer mouse. I personally don't use a ton of these like quick launching features because I am a keyboard and Raycast shortcut person on the Mac anyway. But I can see people would love this. I feel like this is becoming like the Porsche 911 of computer mice, maybe? Like, hear me out. This is not changing very much from generation to generation. It keeps the same silhouette, the iconic shape that everyone knows. But each time they improve a little bit and iterate over and over to the nth degree. And it's the most important product for that company, so they don't want to change it too much. But also, it's just like the ideal enthusiast daily driver. And it's still expensive and doesn't have the best numbers on paper. Like this is still a $120 computer mouse with a 120 hertz polling rate, where like there are mice out there with 1,000 hertz, 2,000, 8,000 hertz polling rates. But it's not a gaming mouse. It's just a rock solid, pricey, but ideal.
Yeah, fucking pricey. 5,000, 10,000 for a month.
Thing you could ask for, and it even now has a USB Type-C dongle, which I'm shocked we actually don't see more of. But yeah, this mouse is absolutely still Dope Tech.
Phantom.
All right, next up, is
that a fan?
YouTube legend in its own right. This is the new Devialet Phantom. So I feel like there was a whole
The fuck is
era
that?
of a couple months on YouTube where a thumbnail with the Phantom in it was like an automatic million views, and everybody had to check this thing out. I've actually already covered it
The
twice on
speaker?
Dope Tech. First in the white and gold version, then the Phantom 2, which was smaller but a bit more reasonably priced, so it was a natural follow-up to the expensive first one. And now they came out with this, which is the Devialet Phantom Ultimate. And so there's two sizes of it. There's a smaller 98 decibel version, and then there's this, which is the bigger, louder, more powerful 108 decibel version. So the idea has not changed at all. It's an all-in-one speaker system with a tweeter and woofers that not only gets crazy loud and sounds really good, but it also has this big, dramatic, moving membrane for the woofers and kind of looks like an alien head, if you ask me. They're definitely a conversation starter. But there are also new drivers and a new internal circuitry to make them more efficient and continue to sound even better. But yeah, this is the larger 108 decibel version here, and on this stand, which is kind of the best way to get it close to head level, they're pretty awesome. They're kind of more dense, actually, than you would expect. Picking up each one, it's almost 25 pounds. But yeah, apparently this is the amount of space you'll need to deliver 108 decibels versus the significantly smaller 98 decibel version. And there's also a new app that lets you play with more modes and even pair two together in stereo mode, which is what I have over here by this TV. There's another one over on the other side,
And
two
looks
of them paired together.
disgusting. I don't know. It
is
doesn't really look
just
appealing to me.
crazy. They get
I kind of like
ridiculously
prefer
loud if you want
the
them to, but also just
default
in normal
looking of
volume,
like a
they
speaker.
sound really good. There's an incredible amount of bass. It fills the room, whatever size room you're in, it's going to fill the room. And the stereo separation now of having a left-right channel with these things, it's mad. It sounds crazy. And fun fact, I now mostly see these in Newark Airport. I think it's the older version, but next time you're in Newark Airport, look up in the corners of the little kiosks and the tiny stores they have in between gates, and I guarantee you'll start seeing tons of these little speakers from Devialet, and you'll never be able to unsee them again. At least if you're like me and spend probably too much time in Newark Airport. Anyway, cool overall, obviously, but not a ton of change, still very expensive, and not as hype as they used to be.
Not dope, alright.
So, I covered the Samsung Galaxy Tab 7 Plus in 2020, and it was the third highest viewed Dope Tech episode that we'd ever made, and once again, it was the highest viewed part of that video, so it feels right to revisit the monster Samsung tablet since we don't get the chance to do this every year, and they do refresh it almost every year. Now, back in 2020, the angle for what made this a potential iPad killer was just this incredible hardware. A massive OLED display in a razor-thin case. In your hands, it barely feels real. It looks crazy. It looks like a movie prop.
I mean, yeah, it
It's
does look good.
So, 5 years later,
Look how
this
massive that
the
is. What the hell?
Samsung Galaxy Tab S11 Ultra, and it's still pretty ridiculous. Now, you might think that the iPad, with all the improvements that it has made, has eliminated
Some
this.
random
problem, because
person
they've
walking
done
behind.
a lot of the things, right, that this used to do. It has that super, super thin build now. It has Apple Silicon, and it has iPad OS, which has done a lot of cool things with software. But if you've been paying attention, the Samsung tablets have done a lot of that stuff too, and some new stuff. So it's keeping that rivalry alive. So the Tab S11 Ultra now has a ridiculous laptop-sized 14.6-inch 3K AMOLED display. That's still bigger and higher resolution.
It's
than the iPad
insane
Pro,
how big that
with
is.
Plenty
Fucking
of
hell.
brightness and pitch black blacks, and it's also now even more thin.
It's absolutely
than
insane
ever
how big
before
that thing is.
At, get this, 5.1 millimeters. That's not just thinner than most tablets. That is thinner than the iPad Pro, thinner
Yeah,
than the
it's
iPhone
impressive.
Air, and just about
It's actually
anything this
impressive.
big with a screen on it. And yet it still has a bigger battery, an 11,600 milliamp hour battery. There's also still up to 16 gigs of RAM. There's still micro SD card support for expandable storage, but there's also still up to a terabyte of built-in storage. It also supports the new S Pen, and it starts at $1,200 for the big one, which, yes, is $100 less than the big iPad Pro. But maybe the most interesting is all the software features that Samsung added to this tablet to keep it competing with iPadOS, which just got that big makeover with iPadOS 26. So on the S11 Ultra, you can have apps automatically load in windowed form every time. You can resize windows to whatever size and shape you want, like literally any size and any shape. The window management features are all super intuitive. You can throw a window over to the side of the screen, throw it up to the top to go full screen, and then you can have multiple different desktops saved with these specific window layouts to come back to. Easy. You can also link it to your phone so that you can make phone calls and send texts on your tablet. Plus, it's still crazy good at all that media stuff that it's always been great at. It's still a wider aspect ratio than any iPad. The contrast ratio of AMOLED is still incredible. And another thing, this isn't nanotexture by any means, but it does have pretty good anti-reflective properties, which make a difference to me in this light-filled studio. So this screen looks good all the time. So yes, the iPad has gotten better, but these Samsung tablets have definitely also gotten better. Not perfect. There's still, the Samsung quirks, and this one also is not a Snapdragon chip, but still really good. And it's clear that they've positioned this right alongside the iPad as a viable alternative and even a killer for some people. Still dope tech. And I would also say, check out the video that I made on switching between iOS and Android, because there are a lot of things that these companies do to try to steal users from each other, and it's fascinating, and it was worth an entire separate video, so I'll link it below. Now, a quick word from today's sponsor. All right, thanks to Google and Best Buy for sponsoring this portion of the video.
Skip.
Make sure it's really a sale when it says it's a holiday sale, and all the products are sorted longer ago at
Oh, the red camera.
All right, back to the video.
Nikon
So,
Zeta, wait a minute.
9 years ago, I did an 8K red camera on Dope Tech. And even longer ago, at CES 2016, I did the Nikon D500 in Dope Tech. And the reason I bring this up is, in the meantime, each company has released several other cameras, but then something really interesting happened. Nikon bought Red. Now, in the long, long history of people's favorite tech companies getting purchased, how many of those are a story that ends with everyone being happy rather than people getting paid? Not very many. But with this one, there was at least a chance. There was an opportunity for something really cool. Because Nikon had been toiling away in maybe a distant third place to Canon and Sony for a while, and they've been looking for a way to just break into this mirrorless camera space. And Red has been making incredible high-quality cinema cameras and patenting tons of technology for a while, but never really coming down to an affordable price. So the question is, what are they going to do? Like, why did Nikon buy Red? Are they finally going to join forces and create something that can compete with Sony and Canon in the mirrorless space? Are they finally going to break out and make an affordable, high-quality camera that can actually sell? So we waited, and we waited, and this year, our patience was finally rewarded because they came out with this thing. This is the Nikon ZR. And this is a full-frame mirrorless camera. A collaboration, now that Nikon and Red are one, with a 24-megapixel stacked CMOS sensor, Nikon Z mount, 6K 60 video, 7.5 stops of in-body image stabilization, 15 stops of dynamic range. It shoots R3D, and with this huge 4-inch swiveling touchscreen on the back. This camera really comes out swinging. The spec sheet is awesome, and so it's less of like a Canon R5 competitor and more of like a FX3 competitor. FX3 is very popular, but that camera is $4,000, and this thing is about $2,200. So this thing immediately becomes
how much?
Very interesting. Is about $2,200. So this thing immediately becomes very interesting, especially to me, someone who's been shooting Red for a while, because
half my semester.
Becomes right away the smallest Red camera, and it becomes the Red camera probably with the best autofocus by a mile. And something I've talked about before is so many videos are actually
it's ridiculous. The prices are ridiculous of cameras
in subtle ways, but if you make videos, you kind of notice this stuff. Like MKBHD videos, for example, because I shoot them on mostly Red cameras, are all manual focus all the time because they don't really have very good autofocus. But philosophically, I feel like it should be the other way around. The tool should enable whatever creative thing you want to make. So as much as I love the quality of a Red camera, I'm always interested in more flexible cameras, ones that I can go around and shoot in more flexible spaces and more scenarios, but the footage still looks really good. That's like the dream. So I obviously don't need this to be a picture-taking camera by any means. and it kind of isn't. I just need it to be able to travel more easily than this and shoot video that can match to it pretty well. And thankfully it does do that. It's not without its quirks. It also definitely has some little asterisks. So it's not exactly the same R3D, but it's R3D NE, which is still compressed RAW and still pretty good, but a little bit different. But also, as a video camera, the ergonomics are kind of weak. There is no EVF, there's no top handle. Even the side grip here is pretty small for a video focus camera. There's also a micro HDMI port instead of full-size HDMI. There is a single CF Express Type B slot and then a micro SD card slot instead of another full-size slot. I don't think I've ever seen that on a cinema camera. And at the end of the day is Z-mount, which means Nikon lenses fit natively, but the Z-mount thankfully is very adaptable, so that isn't some horrible downside. But yeah, that's about it. I really like this thing. It is an awesome camera with an awesome screen for an awesome price, but more amazingly, it is a result of two companies merging into one and the consumer actually getting a win out of it. I feel like that never happens, so I'm happy to see that. This obviously isn't a full review of this camera with a ton of sample footage, but I will link some of my favorite reviews from other creators down below, so if you want to check that out, take it from me or take it from them. But yeah,
That was
another
Mark
fun-
Ass Brownlee with his new video. What about anything else? Anything new? What is this? They're all in it. What's up with this? What the fuck is Pyro on about?
A simple nickname is doing a lot. Bubba?
Bubba.
What?
This is an email exchange between Jeffrey Epstein and his brother Mark.
Is it Bill Clinton? Is it a pro golfer? Is it a horse?
I know it's another video talking about Jeffrey Epstein conspiracies. There has been a lot of updates, like you may remember, for example, the prison footage, which everyone immediately memed on because we're in current year, and just had the most bizarre videos to show. I do like that as well, if you may have noticed. It's almost like we are all just so jaded of everything right now that anything becomes a meme. Things that people would have taken seriously like 10 or 20 years ago, now people are like, wait a minute, I can post this on X or I can post it on TikTok and get a bunch of likes. Now, obviously, in the last
That's
year
true,
or so, as you've seen, one of the biggest topics that people are talking about is the Jeffrey Epstein files. Where are they? Why are they not being released? And there's something really unique about this case because, again, when there's any kind of like internet drama or like a big happening, people forget after a week because our brain receptors, our dopamine receptors, are just so obviously fried from consuming so much short content. It's like, whoa, a really bad thing. Oh, anyways. Oh, a really bad thing happened. Oh, anyways. I'm going to play Valorant now.
Every kill you get, I'll give you
But then on November the 12th this year, you actually had the US House Oversight Committee, and they released a huge amount of additional documents from the Epstein's estate. Now, from what I gather, there was a lot of redacted stuff, usually to keep like victims' identity safe. So the entire thing just looks like you're playing Black Ops 1, and how, you know, you get like a little mission intro, like the character you're playing as, the location, the time period, and it all like slowly gets censored out. That's pretty much what these files look like. These also included emails from 2011 to 2019, in which Epstein mentions Trump, among other things. Again, hence why any single TikTok, IG Reel, or YouTube short you see of Orange Man and people do not like the Orange Man, they'll just, the top comment is always, anyways, where's the Epstein files? So there was one email from 2011 that was actually released in association to Ghislaine Maxwell, who was basically, you know, Jeffrey Epstein's accomplice. So here it says, to Ghislaine from Jeffrey, I want you to realize that that dog that hasn't barked is Trump, and then a redacted victim name. Spent hours at my house with him. He has never once been monitored, police chief, etc. I'm 75% there. And then Ghislaine responds by saying, I have been thinking about that. Now, one of the reasons why this story caught my attention, because, you know, when I cover stuff on this channel, I try to keep it not too heavy, and this is obviously some really heavy stuff. If you've been looking around at TikTok at the minute, you'll see a lot of people comparing Jeffrey Epstein to a horse.
What?
the horses here.
Is it Bill Clinton? Is it a pro golfer? Is it a horse?
Fucking hell, American
But if we
politics
see
is
a
a fucking
photo,
joke right now
will
at this
people
point, man.
believe it?
Fucking
Now
hell.
we will get into this whole horse comparison, which is, it will mind break you. 100% trying to even understand it. But before that, you know, we can go through some more emails. So there was an email that was apparently leaked in correspondence between Jeffrey Epstein and a guy called Michael Wolff, who apparently at the time was Epstein's behind-the-scenes advisor, or I guess like a media strategist. So Wolff says, I can hear CNN planning to ask Trump tonight about his relationship with you, either on air or in Scrum afterwards. And then Epstein says, if we were able to craft
Fuck's
an
in
answer for him,
Scrum?
what do you think it should be? And then Wolff says, I think you should let him hang himself. Now, before I read the rest of the email, very
God.
ironic choice of wording considering what allegedly happened to Jeffrey Epstein. Wow. I'm not sure whether that guy is like a time traveler or something, but that is a crazy choice of wording to use on someone that isn't Jeffrey Epstein. If he says he hasn't been on the plane or to the house, then that gives you a valuable PR and political currency. You can hang him in a way that potentially generates a positive benefit for you, or
My
if
goodness.
it really looks like you could win, you could save him, generating a debt. So this guy is speaking in the most Scrooge McDuck way. Either,
Yeah.
like, ruin this guy, or you could save him, only to then use it against him later. Of course, it is possible that when asked, he'll say, Jeffrey is a great guy. Great guy, Jeffrey Epstein is a great guy. Love that guy. He likes China. He likes China. And has gotten a raw deal and is a victim of political correctness, which is to be outlawed in a Trump regime. Obviously, Wolff here is telling Epstein to basically let Trump talk first about whether he's lying about being on the plane or he actually visited the house. And if he lies and says no, he can apparently catch him in a lie
Well,
and prove
there's-
that he's lying
there's-
to hurt him,
okay, fine,
either in
fine,
the media
fine.
or politically. And then on the other side of the coin as well, he could almost like buddy up with Trump and then use that as a debt later on, like, oh, you better not be lying online. No one does that. If you do that, I'm going to expose you. I think it's really scary, by the way, and I just thought about this right now, how all these emails that get leaked, if there's anything like this that happens like 50 or even less than that, like 20 years from now, people will not be using emails. They'll probably just be using Discord. Now, obviously, one really important thing from this email is, like I said earlier, it was sent in 2015, which was actually a year before Trump would be elected president. He wasn't actually president at the time. And then there's another email from 2019. This is again between Epstein and Wolff. So obviously the name of a victim has been censored here. Trump said he asked me to resign. Never a member ever. Of course he knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. Now this is obviously really bad news for Trump as well. And I have seen like the amount of people posting like voice clips online of Trump apparently trying to silence the Epstein
This
files from
AI
being
goes,
released,
yeah.
doing anything that people can to stop it from coming out.
Not releasing the Epstein files. Fuck Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't care what you do. Start a fucking war. Just don't let him get out. If I go down, I will bring all of you down.
Now, I do want to say with that voice clip, as much as it sounds like Trump is having a heated gamer moment, I have seen no proof that it's real whatsoever.
there you go, yeah.
And again,
Fucking
AI
AI,
right
man.
now is getting scarily good. So, you know, like there is no proof with that voice clip, despite the fact that I've seen people post it everywhere, getting millions of views on short form content. So we've talked about the serious stuff. We've talked about the Epstein file update. So who is Bubba? What is Bubba? Why is
Yeah,
everyone
exactly. Who the fuck is
talking
he?
about this like supposed Bubba at the minute? So this all started from an email allegedly from Mark L. Epstein to Jeffrey Epstein, which was his brother. So before we get into all this, I have to read basically the entire email chain, because the more you read it, the scarier it gets. So Jeffrey Epstein's brother, Mark, basically wrote, how are you doing? A while back you mentioned that you were pre-diabetic. Has anything changed with that? What is your boy Donald up to now? And then Jeffrey says, all good, Bannon with me. And then his brother says, ask him if Putin has the photos of Trump blowing Bubba. And then Jeffrey says, I thought I had Suris. Now, again, I make commentary videos. I don't have the highest IQ. I didn't even know what the word Suris meant. I thought it was some kind of like oral infection or something. But actually, it's just a really clever I got a thesaurus for Christmas word of saying that you're having, you know, problems or difficulties at the minute. And then Mark, his brother, writes, you and your boy Donnie can make a remake of the movie Get Hard, sent via tin can and string. And then Jeffrey says, you mean Donnie T? And then Mark finishes the email chain by saying, I'd rather be in Donnie D's shoes. Now, again, a lot of it is word soup. It's a little bit
What?
confusing, but the big takeaway that everyone had from that email chain is, why would you ask Putin if he has videos of Trump blowing Bubba? Now, I'm going to say something very brave here. I'm not sure what your political leaning is. If you're watching this channel, you could be a lefty or a righty or somewhere in between, which apparently on the internet now makes you a coward. But I don't think anyone wants the image in their head of Trump possibly giving someone a blowjob. Now, obviously, internet sleuths wanted to find out who Bubba is. Now, the problem is with being an internet sleuth is usually the same way it works, in my opinion, is getting a top comment on a YouTube video or like an IG reel or something like that. Usually, one person will say the thing, and then everyone else just regurgitates it, acting like they were the first person to say the thing. Well, at the minute, it seems to be the prime suspect could be former US President Bill Clinton. Now, if you're not an American and you don't really understand US politics, that's okay. He was the guy in Black Ops 6 that appeared for 7 seconds. Now, the reason why people drew this comparison is because apparently Bubba has been a widely known nickname for Bill Clinton. And on top of that as well, people drew comparisons because when the Epstein flight logs were released, Bill was actually mentioned 26 times. And then also as well, there was like a really bizarre birthday message. So people drew the comparison that he was...
I can't really handle much of this fucking video before I take an extra sip of alcohol. So I'll be back. Give me 2 minutes, alright? Oh my goodness, I'm back. One which is interesting thing is, one thing that I actually like Belarus about is that for some reason the Lay's company just keeps on pumping out new flavors. This one is a new Christmas one which I have not seen yet, but this one is supposed to be Christmas duck. I mean, I don't know how the fuck Christmas duck is supposed to be translated to a fucking chips. But apparently it can. So I'm very much surprised about that.
Of not only Trump but Epstein as well. And again, that's why if you go on TikTok right now, you will see these like claims about Bubba that get hundreds of thousands of likes.
Have you ever had an extramarital affair, Governor? If I had, I wouldn't tell you.
Because I like money.
I think the weirdest thing about this entire situation, apart from Bill Clinton allegedly being referred to as Bubba, is that Putin has the photos like a completely foreign president. I mean, if this is true and it's legit, it's basically the blackmail to end all blackmails. But there has actually been one key player that's trying to throw a wrench into the works of this game theory, and it is actually...
What the fuck? It actually has a taste of a chicken. Or a turkey in this case. What? Did they spray with this fucking turkey grease? This actually tastes like fucking turkey or like chicken. Like meat. I'm blown away. Fucking hell.
none other than Mark Epstein, who I mentioned earlier, Jeffrey Epstein's brother, who's still alive. And he basically put out this statement saying, for the avoidance of doubt, the reference to Bubba in this correspondence is not in any way a reference to former President Bill Clinton. I mean, do you think that's going to change any Gen Z's mind online? No. If anything, they'll probably just make follow-up TikToks now. But then what makes things even more confusing about the Bubba game theory is there's someone else called Bubba. Ghislaine Maxwell has a horse that was also named Bubba. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but Bill Clinton was not the only one called Bubba. Ghislaine Maxwell's horse was also named Bubba. And then there was this as well. Ghislaine Maxwell's actual horse was named Bubba. No, seriously, before Epstein's downfall, she had a show jumper with UK registries. Epstein brothers' email says Trump blowing Bubba. So if this situation is true, he is either blown, like, do you see how bad this situation is right now? Him blowing Bill Clinton is like, that's the good ending, because at least that's legal, as opposed to what could be actual straight up bestiality. And then obviously after this claim was made, people instantly started going onto Twitter about it, instantly going onto TikTok about it.
It broke my heart to put that tune in her head. What?
But unfortunately, I do hate to burst the bubble there, because from what I could find, unless it comes out at a later date after this video, there's no actual official horse registry, there's no photographic receipts, and Mark Epstein himself said that the whole thing was a private joke between brothers, and that Bubba was this private individual. Again, that could just be absolute cope, but I cannot find a single horse called Bubba that is tied to Ghislaine Maxwell with proof. I've just seen people say it, and then they don't really provide any evidence. But if it's true, would it be hilarious? Yes, it would be absolutely hilarious. The problem is official registry databases for UK-based horses, they're usually private, or they're only actually accessible by certain subscriptions. And I couldn't find a registry entry that publicly linked showing a horse owned by Ghislaine Maxwell named Bubba. The only thing that seems to be a link here is what Hindustan Times said. In an interview with Talk TV, Maxwell had shared the time she interacted with the late Queen of England. She said that the story that we shared about horses, because I love horses, and she loves horses, so we talked about horses briefly. And that's it. Like the only link at the minute seems to be Ghislaine Maxwell liked horses. But again, if it's true, would it be funny? Absolutely.
What a joke. That America's a fucking joke. Alright, let's see. What else do we have? James Corden, what about him?
If ever there was a celebrity that exemplified the saying, don't meet your heroes, then it's got to be James Corden, a man who rode his funny, humble, down-to-earth, everyman persona all the way to Hollywood stardom. He was once hosting everything from talk shows to awards ceremonies, starring in TV and big-budget movies, and rapidly being positioned as the new face of American TV. The world just couldn't seem to get enough of James Corden. But fame exacts a heavy price on any man, and beneath all the jokes and the jolly banter and the forced relatability, there lurked a sordid tale of bullying, abuse, out-of-control egos and embarrassing revelations that ultimately unravelled his entire career. So join me as I recount the crash and burn of James Corden. James Kimberly Corden was born in London in 1978, the son of a book salesman and a social worker. And by all accounts, his childhood was a pretty normal one. He didn't grow up in grinding poverty or obnoxious privilege, but instead had a standard working-class British upbringing that he'd later used to push himself as down-to-earth and relatable. Anyway, he soon developed an interest in acting and presenting and started getting small parts in British TV shows like Hollyoaks and Boys Unlimited. What can I say? The 90s were a wild time in British TV, man. He first gained mainstream attention with a starring role in Fat Friends, a drama about, you guessed it, a bunch of fat people trying to lose weight. Damn, man, imagine daring to make a show like that nowadays.
It's a weird concept to make a show about that.
Anyway, it was here that he met fellow actor and writer Ruth Jones. The two hit it off immediately and soon hatched an idea for a new TV series about a young English guy who falls in love with a girl from Wales. A place which Mueller assures me is a real country, but I'm still not convinced. Anyway, the show was called Gavin and Stacey. You've probably never heard of it in America, but it would go on to run for 3 seasons and become one of the most successful British comedies of the 2000s. What's interesting about it is that Corden and Jonesy's characters, Smithy and Nessa, ended up becoming way more popular than the actual stars of the show. With the success of Gavin and Stacey, the offers were now flowing in. A natural entertainer who could banter with the best of them, Corden soon found himself hosting everything from awards ceremonies to panel shows. James Corden was now officially a big deal. In the UK at least. The only question now was what to do next.
How the fuck did he
His
come to
answer was
America then?
try to recapture
How did
the
he, like,
magic of
shift
Gavin and
from
Stacey
one
by
country to the other?
branching out into other projects with his co-star Matthew Horn, ignoring the fact that it was Ruth Jones who was mostly responsible for the show's success, but whatever. Lesbian Vampire Killers, their first big movie together, was absolutely slated by critics and bombed at the box office. While their
I mean,
comedy
just by
sketch
like the
show-
title, like what the fuck were you thinking? What? Lesbian
absolutely slated by
vampire
critics
killers.
and
The
bombed
fuck?
at the box
Who's gonna
office.
watch
While
this
their
shit?
comedy sketch show Horn and Corden failed to explain why either of them had ever been considered funny. Strangely enough, Corden would quietly distance himself from young Matthew after that. Problems were also afoot behind the scenes. Corden's sudden rise to fame and success was doing what it does to many people. It was turning him into a fucking bellend. His behaviour was apparently so bad that his Gavin and Stacey co-star Rob Brydon actually had to step in and warn him to rein it in. Even his own family got involved. One of his sisters straight up told him, "James, stop being such a dickhead." It's a shame he never took that advice to heart. But it was the 2010 Glamour Women of the Year Awards that Corden got his first taste of public embarrassment when Patrick Stewart decided to lay into him live on air.
When the presenters are up here and when the recipients are receiving their awards, don't stand at the back of the stage with your hands in your pockets, looking around as though you wished you were anywhere but here.
Was it unprofessional and
No
kind of
way.
petty of him to call him out live on stage instead of having a word in private? Yeah. Was it also funny as fuck to watch him getting told off like some arsehole schoolboy? Also yes. More than that though, it was the first real chink in Corden's affable, easygoing public persona. Still, he did his best to defuse the situation afterwards, and for the time being at least, his career was still going strong. He was a regular fixture at big events like the Brit Awards and still booking roles in films and TV shows, but what he really needed was something to take his career to the next level. He needed to crack America. Enter The Late Late Show, which for the past decade had been hosted by Craig Ferguson. He was a popular host and the show was doing well, but by 2014 his contract had expired and he was ready to move on to new projects. A replacement had to be found, and that replacement turned out to be our boy James. And to his credit, he turned out to be a good choice in the short term at least. His humble, everyman persona was the perfect contrast to the slick,
Yeah, from what about, like,
polished
the clips I
confidence of
seen
other
on
late-night
the-
talk show hosts. He was able
the
to
show
actually
is
have
not
fun and
bad.
engage with his guests as human beings and get way more out of them than others could. More than that though, he understood the importance of creating viral moments that could get shared on social media, and he was happy to oblige. Carpool Karaoke turned out to be a stroke of absolute genius
Yeah.
that drew in record audiences and cemented the show as a staple of late night TV. They say that if you can make it in America, you can make it anywhere, and James Corden had officially made it. He had a hit talk show on his hands, he was hosting some of the biggest awards ceremonies on US television, and even his movie career was starting to pick up again. Everything he touched seemed to turn to gold. But the old problems of ego and shitty behaviour behind the scenes were starting to resurface, and the first hint of this was during a game of Spill Your Guts or Fill Your Guts, basically Truth or Dare but with animal body parts, where his co-host Jimmy Kimmel asked him a seemingly innocent question that he should have been easily able to answer.
Name 2 of the cameramen in this room.
You know, it still blows my mind
Oh.
that his producers actually okayed this one. Like, they must have known what would happen, they knew how it would make him look, and they still allowed it to go ahead, which probably should tell you a lot about how he treated his own staff. Now that the cracks were appearing in his public persona, all kinds of damaging revelations were starting to leak through, like during his disastrous Reddit AMA in 2018, where one of the top comments criticised him for acting like a twat in a London restaurant a few years earlier. Another commenter threw shade at his
Massive content
behaviour during
person.
the filming of A League of Their Own, a British sports show, and accused him of throwing tantrums, refusing to interact with fans, and basically acting like an arrogant prick who absolutely didn't want to be there. Every new accusation seemed to fit the same pattern of obnoxious, entitled bullying once the cameras stopped rolling, and things weren't much better on the movie front either. Cats ended up being pure nightmare fuel, one of the biggest critical disasters of the decade, and Corden himself caught most of the backlash for his, unique performance.
A drink at the drum.
damn, man, even Ricky Gervais took great pleasure in shitting on him.
The world got to see James Corden as a fat pussy. He was also in the movie Cats, but no one saw that.
Such was the hatred against his performance, there was even a petition to keep him from having any involvement in the Wicked movie that was in production at the time, which reached more than 100,000 signatures. Restaurants seem to be a particular trigger for James, which is ironic considering he clearly enjoys his food, but in 2022 he managed to get himself banned from the swanky New York restaurant Balthazar for allegedly screaming at staff and being rude and aggressive towards other customers. He'd eventually go on to apologise and get himself unbanned, but the damage to his public reputation was more permanent. It was becoming increasingly popular to hate on James Corden, and the hate was even spilling over into the Late Late Show, with the revelation that carpool karaoke was mostly faked, using trailers to drive the cars around. It sounds like a minor detail, but it blew the fantasy for a lot of people, and ratings soon went into a terminal decline. By the start of 2023, weekly viewership was half what it had been just 6 months earlier, and by April, Corden announced that not only was he leaving the show, but the show itself was being taken off the air permanently. Not long afterwards, he also announced that he was moving back to the UK to focus on his family.
Really?
His public image was in tatters after years of embarrassing revelations against him. His movie career was derailed by a disastrous series of flops, and even his hosting gigs were rapidly drying up. James Corden had officially crashed and burned. Yeah, I'm sure he'll never be short of money at this point, and he's got just enough name recognition to land the occasional role that'll keep him in the public eye, but his days at the top of American TV are long behind him. And now here he stands as a cautionary tale to those who would follow in his footsteps. Be careful what you wish for. He's a perfect example of what happens when too much fame and success comes too quickly to a man without the wisdom and maturity to cope with it. A man whose career was built on a persona he could never hope to maintain. A man whose life was placed under the magnifying glass of celebrity and all his flaws exposed for the world to see. And unfortunately for James Corden, there were just too many of them to overcome. Anyway,
I mean, yeah, I guess, you know what, to one extent, like the carpool karaoke being fake, kind of like, you know, maybe the reason that they did this is because, like, it's much safer to, like, shoot it on, like, a moving thing as compared to, like, him interacting with another person and then driving the car. Maybe that's why they did that. Or maybe just because of laziness, yeah. But I don't know, like, from what all the clips that I've seen of him, I don't know, it doesn't really seem to be that kind of a dickhead. But apparently, yes, you know, what a person can be completely different on camera and off camera. So, well, yeah, that's that. That's that about James Corden. What do we have? Would we have anything interesting? Oh yes, crematorium. Oh my goodness, actually I want to kind of like speak about the crematorium scene, because like this my lo-fi. Otherwise it's too, you know, otherwise it becomes too come on now. Yeah, so basically what, well, I had a class today, which was about, well, I had a class basically this entire week, and then I think like Tuesday, till Tuesday I think, or till Wednesday I had a class, yeah. So basically what about it is, it's the forensic medicine, so we learn about like how different kind of like weapons impact the body, and how the different types of wounds are there from the different weapons, from like different knives and stuff like that, yeah. And yesterday there was a class where it's basically at a morgue, we went over there, and yeah, he kind of like said, like, you know, before, the day before, it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to go, you know, go to the morgue and stuff like that. But I felt like, you know, he could have at least, you know, gave a little bit of a better heads up, kind of like a disclaimer. It's like, you're going to see some kind of like some horrible shit. So we went over there, and there were like bodies, literal bodies. I mean, it's a morgue, and morgue is on stretchers, and there were two tables, like dissection tables at the morgue room, There were like already 2 bodies over there. Yeah, and like I feel like well, the way that they like dissected it, they could have had a little bit of like more of well, a little bit of a better way to like kind of like open up a body, because like the way that they did that is kind of like more of like a abrupt, like too much force and stuff like that. Like how they cut the rib cage, how they cut the back of the skull, and then just like peel off the skin and then just flip it over. Yeah, some people in the group didn't really particularly like that, and one guy from our group said, you know what, that's enough. He just walked out of it, and it's perfectly fine. The professors do allow that because, well, any person, it's fine. Yeah. We also saw another group with the Russians, and that guy, like there were I think like 6 people, and like majority of them were girls. There were like 3 guys or 2 guys, something like that. And one guy is like, he used to be there for like 2 minutes and used to go out for like 1 minute and then come back 1 minute and said, okay, I'm gonna go back out again. So yeah. So about the crematorium, well, it's an interesting thing. I've never never have been there, thankfully. And yeah, it was a very interesting experience, to be fair. Yeah, I don't know, I kind of like held my ground, but like one main thing is, for some reason, like they didn't install proper ventilation. So as soon as like you open up a body, there's a distinct smell of something or the other, going bad. Well, it does happen. After like 3 hours, the body will start to slowly decompose in certain ways, right? And like you can't really do anything about that. So of course there's gonna be some certain way, but for some reason which I don't really understand is like there was no proper ventilation, just a room, and that's it. It's like a proper fan just gonna be pulling all the excess smells, which are not very pleasant. For some reason I didn't really think it was necessary, so just like that's it. But yeah, sure, for people who are really like used to it and been working there for a month, pretty sure you get used to the smell. But for a person who's coming in just right the first time, it's like, oh yeah, that smell is not great. It's not great. I've smelled formaldehyde. That doesn't really come close to it. It's disgusting. So yeah, so that's that. And yeah, that was my experience in the morgue. Fine, let's see. But yeah, that's that. Alright, what's the time now? 12:49. Maybe you can just squeeze one more video and that's it.
Hello and welcome to No Effort November, a series of videos for the month of November where no effort is made. Have you heard of these newfangled compact cassettes? Everybody's got them these days, and tons of new music is being released on these little things all the time. But what if all you've got is an 8-track player? Well, have no fear of being left behind, because Krako's got you covered with this. Just pop the tape you'd like to play into this thing, then shove it into your 8-track player, and blammo! You're listening to the latest hits like one of the cool kids. I love a good adapter, and this may be my very favorite one because it's delightfully clever. It uses one of the weirdest and arguably worst features of the 8-track cartridge format to create a surprisingly competent cassette player which passes the signals on the cassette tape directly into the playback heads of an 8-track player so you can listen to the cassette. I don't remember when I first learned about these things, but back in the day I was given an old Zenith console radio set with a record changer, AM/FM tuner, and of course an 8-track player. And probably while perusing eBay for 8-track related nonsense to play in that thing, I found one of these for sale. This is not the one I had back then. It broke and I threw it away, but I've tracked down another one for this video. And this is that. To explain what's so clever about this, first we need to look at the 8-track cartridge and its design. The 8-track was the first majorly successful consumer tape cartridge. It was based on an endless loop cartridge format developed for radio, but for success in the consumer market, it was cost-cut to oblivion. A design of Richard Krause, the Stereo 8 cartridge hit the scene in 1964, and it used conventional quarter-inch magnetic tape. But it split the fundamental elements of a magnetic tape transport between the playback device and the cartridge itself. See, magnetic tape is really just a thin plastic film covered in powdered rust. When you drag that rusty tape past a tiny electromagnet called a tape head, you can store information on that tape by magnetizing the rust particles. A sound signal, which is fed to the head, modulates the strength of the magnetic field it produces, and since the tape is moving past as this happens, the powdered rust becomes magnetized in the same pattern as the original signal. In other words, a recording of that signal is now present on the tape. And when you move this newly magnetized tape past the head again, but this time without sending signals into the head, the varying magnetization on the tape will create an electrical signal inside the tape head, which can be sent to an amplifier to recover the original signal, and thus the sound. That's the basics of recording audio onto magnetic tape. But to do it well, you need a mechanism which can smoothly pull the tape past the head at a very steady speed. That's accomplished with a capstan and pinch roller. The metal capstan is spun by a motor at a constant and precise RPM, and the rubber pinch roller jams itself up against the spinning capstan. Stick some tape between the two spinny bits, and it's going to be pulled along at a steady speed. If you give the capstan a bit of heft with the help of a flywheel, you can make this happen incredibly smoothly, which is good for keeping the audio signals from sounding warbly and weird. In a reel-to-reel tape recorder, you have a supply reel of tape, the tape transport with the tape head's capstan and pinch roller, and then you have a take-up reel, which takes up the tape after it's gone through the transport. But this whole contraption is pretty bulky and inconvenient. Now, you could put the two reels into some sort of box and then create a tape transport which interacts with that box, which is what a cassette is, but those tape transports are somewhat mechanically intricate, which makes them fairly expensive to produce. I mean, you gotta have parts that move the pinch roller into the capstan, you gotta have some way to move the tape in both directions so you can rewind it. I mean, it's just the whole ordeal. The 8-track format, on the other hand, took everything out of the tape transport except for the spinning capstan and the playback heads. The pinch roller became part of the cartridge itself, with the tape riding along its outer circumference, and with the help of this knot here and a little spring tension, the 8-track player simply jams the cartridge, and thus the pinch roller, right into the capstan inside the machine. Since the tape is now sandwiched between the capstan and the pinch roller inside the cartridge, this simple arrangement was all that was needed for nice and smooth tape movement. And to make it even simpler, 8 tracks contain a tape loop rather than 2 separate reels of tape. Tape is pulled from the center of that loop, travels up and over the top of the cartridge, then back down the pinch roller before finally ending up at the edge of the loop. This somewhat odd arrangement forces the tape to sort of slide past itself, but since the tape is pulled out from the center of the loop where the diameter is smallest, the tape is naturally kept in tension. The rather large catch is that this form of loop prevents the tape from being moved backwards. No rewinding is possible with an 8-track. You just have to keep going forward until you're back at the start of the loop. No rewinding is possible with an 8-track. You just have to keep going forward until you're back at the start of the loop. That's not the end of the world, though, thanks to the format's party trick, which also explains why it's called the 8-track. The tape holds 8 parallel audio tracks recorded across its width. They're interleaved as 4 programs of stereo sound, and the 8-track player used a mechanism which would physically move the playback heads to realign them with each of the 4 programs. This extra complexity belied some of the cost savings, but it meant that a hypothetical album with 12 songs on it would be recorded onto an 8-track as 4 loops with 3 songs each. And with a button on the 8-track player which lets you step through the 4 programs, you could kind of skip around and get to a specific song. And while it was physically impossible for the tape to move backwards without the loop getting very badly undone, Many players, such as this, offered a fast forward option to make queuing up a specific song at least a little bit easier. And of course, 8-track players could also step to the next program automatically. This was accomplished with a piece of foil on the splice point of the tape loop. Electrical contacts inside the 8-track player were pressed against the tape, and they had a modest voltage placed across them. When the foil splice bridged those two contacts, that voltage was fed to a small solenoid that pulls down on this lever, which steps the heads to the next program with the help of this spinning cam thing. This was a pretty clever trick, but splitting up a loop of tape into 4 programs with the exact same length made programming rather difficult, so albums released on 8-track would tend to have the songs in a different order than the LP release, or they might have weirdly long gaps between certain songs, or, much worse, they might actually split a track across 2 programs, which leads to a small gap in the sound in the middle of a song, in addition to some audible clicks and pops. Not ideal. However, the format was stupid simple. Just shove the thing in and it starts playing without a fuss. And for its time, they were quite robust. Tape doesn't care about vibrations like conventional records do, and that made tape formats a great choice for cars. In fact, that's where 8-tracks first became popular. These days, 8-tracks are generally not well appreciated. For one, many of them now have issues with degradation of the pinch roller or the foam pads which keep the tape pressed up against the heads, and so they often need repair. Just ask Techmoan. And they were never made all that well. I tried to demonstrate how they handled albums which split tracks across the program change with this cartridge, but the moment the splice made its way through the pinch roller and capstan, the tape broke. It broke! Right on camera. Even if they weren't prone to these issues, with their rather restrictive playback limitations, they're a little annoying to use. However, 8-tracks sound better than you might realize, in large part because the tape travels at 3 3/4 inches per second, twice the linear speed of a compact cassette, and that allows it to record higher frequency sound signals, which increases fidelity. It's definitely not great by today's standards, but it's not really all that bad. Here are a few examples, and I'll note that this is by no means a good 8-track player. It's pretty basic, and it has that delightfully 1970s, we are really trying to make this look like a digital device with 7-segment displays, but this is really a piece of plastic in front of 4 incandescent light bulbs aesthetic. But hopefully, it gives you a sense of what the format was capable of. Now, if you're wondering why there's so much noise, part of that is this 8-track player's kind of terrible preamp, but also the track width is identical to a compact cassette. And since 8-tracks peaked before tape formulations got very good and noise reduction technologies like Dolby B took hold, they tend to have more tape noise than you'd want. Not exactly high fidelity, but far from terrible. Still, by the late 1970s, the format was starting to fall out of fashion. For one, the cartridges were quite chonky and took up a good deal of space. The compact cassette was quite a lot smaller and thinner. And here's a fun twist. This is actually an older format than the 8-track. This came out in 1963, and this came out in 1964. You might think it odd that the 8-track even happened then, but the compact cassette's very slow 1 7/8 inches per second tape speed initially gave it quite poor fidelity, which made it awful for music. At first, this was mainly sold as a format for dictation machines and similar applications, but before long, with the benefit of innovations in tape formulations and improved recording and playback heads, cassettes could sound just as good as an 8-track, and indeed much better once features like Dolby noise reduction became standard, and all without any of the 8-track's weirdness. But there were plenty of people out there who had, say, a car with a perfectly good 8-track player in there. As new music releases on 8-track started to dwindle, those folks would be left behind unless they upgraded their radios. That was annoying, especially since the radio part still worked fine for traffic reports and Casey Kasem's Top 40. Rudolf van Kreuningen simply would not stand for this reality, and so he designed this thing. Now, I will note that this is not the first product which worked like this. Tom T. Tsuji patented a similar device in 1969, and there were several designs over the years. However, this one features plenty of refinements, and its clever arrangement of parts makes it much less bulky than those other designs. Here's what's so clever about these things. Since 8-track players all have that spinning capstan, if you can transfer that rotational movement into a drivetrain of some kind, you could use the motor of an 8-track player to actually drive a cassette transport. And that's exactly what this does. What was a pinch roller in an actual 8-track became a drive wheel in this adapter, and with the help of some belts and simple mechanical linkages, it can use the motor inside an 8-track player to run a simple cassette player. As luck would have it, the compact cassette and the 8-track cartridge have nearly identical widths, and with the cassette slotted in like this, the adapter is just a tiny bit longer than a standard 8-track cartridge. When this control lever is slid over to the play position, this idler wheel is jammed against the drive wheel. A flat belt made of some kind of cloth or paper to give it a grippy texture transfers that movement over to the pinch roller of the cassette transport. That is a little strange. Ideally, it should be driving the capstan, and the pinch roller should simply spin freely. This design is exactly backwards, probably because it wouldn't be possible to spin the capstan fast enough if directly driven. But the capstan does at least have a substantial flywheel to dampen vibrations and speed, so it works well enough. At least, when these were new. This one's playing pretty warbly these days, though it's clear it got lots of use based on the wear shown on the pinch roller and heads. Now, I was a little worried this would be the case. The original one I had the same weird belt in it, and before long, it tore itself to shreds. I could never get it to work properly again, which is why I got rid of it. But, through the magic of buying 2 of them, I was prepared for this eventuality. And this one's new in box. Look, it's perfect for use in home 8-track players, car 8-track players, and patent pending. This one is a later revision, and production was moved from Japan to Korea. When I tried it out, it played fine for approximately 2 seconds, and then started slowing down, and then came to a stop. Guess I gotta crack this one open too then, and inside here I found a surprise. This revision uses a standard rubber belt rather than whatever that is. The original belt had simply stretched just a little too much over the last 40 years or so, and gave up. But after a quick run through my bag of belts, I found one that mostly works. It's not right, but it'll do well enough for this video. And after buttoning it back together, I gave it a test run. Great news! This one isn't warbly at all. Some less great news, it's running a little too slow, and it's really not able to keep a steady speed. I can't quite figure out why, as everything in here seems to spin freely, but, well, let's give it a listen.
He sounds demonic. That's demanding, my goodness.
Aside from its issues with speed, I find it remarkable how well this works. It doesn't sound bad at all. Other than the high noise floor of this particular 8-track player, it sounds just as you would expect a cassette to. So there's really nothing to complain about here. This is a very basic tape transport. It can only move the tape forward, which was common in some of the cheapest cassette players out there, but it does at least offer a fast forward option. Interestingly, the patent suggests a rewind option was in the cards, but that was apparently dropped before production. You could, of course, flip the tape over and select fast forward to rewind, which is what you'd have to do with a cheap car stereo anyway, so honestly, this is amazing for what it is. But here's the even amazinger part. You might have wondered how the heck it's getting the signals from the cassette tape into the 8-track player. If you've seen those cassette adapters before, you'll know that you can actually just run a sound signal through a second tape head acting as a transducer and then shove it into a cassette shell such that it'll point at the playback heads of a cassette player. The magnetic field produced by the transducer in the adapter will be coupled into the playback heads. That's essentially what's going on here, though the transducer is a little different. You'll see why shortly. But hold on. Those cassette adapters rely on the amplifier in your CD Walkman or whatever to produce the power required for coupling the signal into the cassette player's heads. There's no way an actual tape head detecting the tiny variations in flux on an actual tape can produce enough power for that coupling to work. And indeed, that wouldn't work. So the adapter contains an amplifier which boosts the strength of the signal coming from the playhead before sending it to the transducer. While that amplifier could be powered by some sort of battery, you could instead get a little power from the circuit inside the 8-track player, which detects the foil strip to advance it to the next program. That's why the adapter has these spring-loaded metal fingers. These will come into contact with the contacts inside the 8-track player and scavenge a tiny bit of current from them, which is delivered to a small amplifier board. And that meant this thing could work without any battery. I love this solution. Why bother with a battery when every 8-track player out there has a couple of electrical contacts that are always powered? So long as the amplifier circuit consumes a small enough amount of current that there's no risk of the step solenoid engaging the advance mechanism, you can just use that. And it's not like this introduced any risk to the 8-track mechanism. If somehow one of these feelers managed to short the contacts together when inserting the adapter, all that would happen is the advance solenoid would fire. I suppose it's possible that if alignment went very wrong, these could keep those contacts bridged together and thus the solenoid would become locked on, but the way that these pivot away from each other makes that seem really unlikely. Now, something that I was hoping the patent would answer, but sadly it didn't, was the range of voltages this thing's amplifier board can work with. I can't imagine every 8-track player design out there used the same voltage for the step solenoid circuit. For one thing, those in cars are definitely going to have a DC voltage placed across them, but those in the home, as far as I know, might have an AC voltage across those contacts. As it turns out, this one does put DC voltage across those contacts, 14 volts to be precise, but I can't imagine that was certain to be the case. The amplifier board does have a few Zener diodes on there, which are probably clamping the voltage down for the little amp chip in there, in addition to providing rectification, and with so many capacitors on that board, I think it's likely some of them are smoothing out an AC input to prevent audible buzzing. So I suspect this was designed to work with pretty much any power supply it found. And though I only have a sample size of 2, so far it's worked in every 8-track player I've tried it with. Regardless, while there might be some 8-track players out there which won't be able to use this thing, I still love the idea. It's taking the weird decisions of the 8-track, placing the pinch roller inside the cartridge and using that foil strip to advance the program, and putting them to an entirely new use. A use which just so happens to make an 8-track player capable of playing an entirely different format, and in doing so, making them useful even when 8-track tapes stopped getting made. Oh, and remember that thing I mentioned about the transducer? So this is in fact a stereo coupler, and the cassette player has stereo heads, so it reproduces stereo sound from a cassette just fine. But because on an 8-track, the two channels of a stereo program are interleaved on the tape and the playhead physically moves up and down, the coupler needs to produce a detectable signal over a pretty wide range. I suppose it didn't strictly need to. They could have simply told users to set the 8-track player to a specific program, but this adapter works pretty well regardless of which one is selected. Actually, I was surprised to discover stereo separation is perfect no matter which program you're on. I fully expected programs 1 and 4 to exhibit a little bleed through, since either the left or right channel head is close to the border between the two channels on the transducer. But nope, the middle programs do seem to sound a little better, but as far as getting good stereo separation, it doesn't seem to matter which one you pick. Lastly, you know I had to. I wanted to see what would happen if I put my Bluetooth cassette adapter into this 8-track adapter. I had to fight with it a little bit as this roller thing was triggering the adapter's auto stop mechanism, but once I got it to cooperate, heck yes. This is a ridiculous signal chain. Bluetooth audio to a DAC in this thing, amplified and output to a cassette tape head, and then coupled into a second cassette tape head, after which it is amplified again in the adapter and sent through the 8-track adapter's transducer before finally getting into the 8-track player's heads, where it's amplified again and sent out the line jacks. But hey, it works! And if you've got a classic car with an 8-track player which you want to keep completely stock, this is a viable, if quite weird, way to give it Bluetooth audio. I did discover, though, that for whatever reason, the signal is attenuated quite a lot when the control lever is fully engaged. This happens with both of these adapters. I'm not sure if it's an alignment issue or what, but between that and the fiddliness of the auto stop, if I were to actually use this as a convoluted Bluetooth adapter, I would probably find or make something of just the right size, which could be jammed in there to force the lever to stay in the middle position. And hey, using this cassette adapter, it won't matter how warbly the belts in the cassette mechanism of the 8-track adapter are. So that's a plus. Heck, the belts could be broken and it would still work. Though, of course, there are more conventional 8-track adapter solutions out there, and realistically, you should just use one of those. But man, there's just something about this that tickles my brain like nothing else. It's just so clever. And even though there's really not much to it, it manages to work quite well. For your sake, I truly wish these were working as they were new. It's a bummer that neither one of these is playing quite right, but I know they would have back in 1982 based on the one I had before. Oh, and I should note, specifically for cars, there were also 8-track adapters with an FM tuner. Plenty of cars with 8-track players only had AM radios, but with one of those, you could bring your car into the future. At least, a bit. Oh, oops, sorry. Have no fear, because Krako's got you... Oh.
Right, fine then. Hope everybody has enjoyed the stream. First stream on multiple platforms, which actually went quite well. Yeah, surprisingly, the laptop hasn't combusted into flames, which is very much glad it didn't. But I mean, half the laptop is actually like hot, but that's usually what ends up happening. And to be fair, when I was streaming on Twitch, the fans were working like very much more than they are right now. But yeah, I'm glad that the laptop has, it doesn't really, put too much extra pressure, which I thought actually it would, but actually it doesn't. So yeah, so fine then. Been streaming on Twitch for I think my goodness, how long now? Many years I think now, and slowly now shifted to YouTube, and I think next week I slowly switch to Twitch, and I think that'll be kind of good. I do actually want to see what's up with the chat, why the icons are not showing up. Maybe because I'm the admin, that's why I'm chatting, maybe that's why it's not showing. But in the preview, which is the application which allows me to multi-chat, it shows exactly what I wanted to. It shows the little icons of the platform. It shows that I'm the admin, but for some reason it just doesn't really, I mean, it should duplicate, but for some reason it's not duplicating it quite well. It just shows me my name without any icons, which is quite interesting. But yeah, there's probably a fix to it somewhere or the other. So yeah, apart from that, that's it, I think. Tomorrow I might stream, might not, and on Sunday I also might stream, might not. But if I'm live, then yeah, sure. Again, majority of the times I'll be able to stream on 2 platforms, so that's it. But of course, the majority of the time, I think, I mean, I also have to like set up I think I'm actually not even eligible on YouTube if I can set up the kind of like the perks and the donations of that. So I think the majority of in case somebody wants to donate something, I think has to go through Twitch. And that's it. And also I have to like do a little bit of like tweaking and stuff like that, because I kind of like Twitch is like my main thing, right? Like the main platform, and like the YouTube and the Kick, whatever the other 3rd and 4th platform, this is going to be like a side thing which I won't pay that much attention to, just to like get more people and stuff like that. So I think, I think I have to like kind of like make like a default thumbnail title. I think I can change it every time that I will be streaming. But apart from that, yeah, that's it actually. At least at least trying to like get more views. I think it'll be a much better, I think, much better approach, I feel like. Yeah, because anyways, I've been streaming for how many years now on Twitch, haven't gone that much traction. And anyways, the option is there to multi-stream, so why not take it and try to do something with it. So yeah, that's that. Apart from that, yeah, that's it. I'm going to go now. It's already 1:30 in the morning. So yeah, actually, you know what, I shouldn't say 1:30 in the morning, I should say 1:30 in the night. It's much better mentally wise. Otherwise like, oh no, 1:30 in the morning, oh no, it's not morning, it's night. 1:30 in the night. So yeah, anyways, thank you so much for the people who have somewhat come in on all the platforms and who are going to be watching the reward. Much appreciated. Anyways, I have slowly kind of like increased my spread, my outreach, so yeah, hopefully that will bring some success. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you guys tomorrow, hopefully. If not, then on Sunday. And yeah, that's it. Take care and good night and bye bye.